welcome to episode I Don't Know What of the Isolation Diaries. Aidan is on annual leave, so he's let Andrew Pavlou and myself do this one all on our own. So it's bound to go horribly wrong. And we're joined.
No, it's going to be fantastic.
We're joined by Laura Samuels, who is a primary teacher at a school in Hertfordshire. I won't disclose the name, Laura, and you've been issued today with the guidance or the guidelines or the plans that your primary school have put in place for students from reception year 1 and year 6 to return after half term on the 1st of June. So we're going to have a little bit of a chat about that. But I thought I'd give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit of your story and why you are a primary teacher and how you became a primary teacher and the challenges that you've faced, and in particular your challenges in lockdown, which might be more profound to other people. So people have a little bit of context about who you are and what you do.
So I trained as a primary school teacher with a specialism in modern foreign languages, and I'm in my 6th year of teaching. I've got a class of year 4 pupils this year. I've done year 4 and 5. I've primarily since I qualified, and I had a unique opportunity of also becoming a French teacher across my school from nursery upwards, and then working at the secondary school in the trust as a year 7 and 8 French teacher. So it's been, when we found out that the schools were going to close, we found ourselves working within Google Classroom and getting to grips with Google Classroom and what it entailed and how it was going to work, and how we were going to be able to reach our students, and those students that we can't reach through Google Classroom because they might not have the equipment to use it, or it's not working as well. We've been creating
your school serves quite a diverse community, doesn't it? So it's worth mentioning that there are challenges.
Absolutely. So we've been trying to cater to make sure all children are looked after in this current climate, and so that parents have the chance to collect packs for the children as well, because we make weekly calls to the children. And
so you call all the parents every week?
Every single week I call all the parents in my class, and it's really nice because the children get a chance to share all the wonderful things they've been doing, all the extra things they've been doing above and beyond what's on Google Classroom. And we also, as a school, send out a weekly newsletter that is directed to the children. It's the children's newsletter, and we celebrate all their successes of work they've been doing on Google Classroom. But not just that, the children will send in extra things that they've done, so arty things or PE challenges or baking or extra bits that they've gone above and beyond to do. And it's the children's newsletter, and we always have a bit at the end where it's like a teacher check-in. So I did mine a couple of weeks ago, and focused on languages because that's my thing. My husband and I are both actually speak a different language. My husband speaks German, and we're trying to start up an Instagram page, and we shared that with my school community to try and get parents who might have Instagram to be able to do a little bit of language teaching through the short videos that we're putting up there. And we've just even started to do a lockdown certificate of the lockdown star of the week. So children in each class are being sent in the post a certificate because they're used to having the star of the week. So we've tried really hard. Doesn't come without its challenges though, because every couple of days, you know, it's technology, it doesn't always go to plan. But what's really nice is I've been able to get a reward board up on the year 4 Google Classroom, so the children are seeing that they're getting these rewards, they're getting their points. We're using something called Class Dojo, and those kids who aren't on Google Classroom, when I make my weekly phone calls and I hear about all the wonderful work they're doing, I make sure they know that I'm giving them points as well. So when we go back, we'll have this great board of points that the kids have managed to get. So
The state schools have been getting some flack, haven't they, Laura? You're doing loads at your school. You must have excellent leadership, excellent teachers, wonderful governors. Who found this wonderful job for you?
It's an amazing community, and I think we've had such great feedback from Google Classroom. We've had parents even suggesting that they think Google Classroom is something that we can be using when we go back to school full time, and is it something that we can continue to use to support children at home, because actually we could upload videos to help with homework. We could even put homework up on there, I suppose. So it is something to look at. It's had an amazing response, and the children are enjoying it. They're taking control of it, and even some parents feel that it's developing independence. And we've managed to keep up with shared reading through Google Classroom, because you can access so many online novels, and we've put up chapter questions for each part. So the children are doing really well. They are a credit to. They've made us as a school very proud, and because it was heartbreaking to have to 1 minute be at school and the next minute they found themselves away from the school environment at a crucial time in the year. But they have, like I've said, they've done an amazing job, and all my staff, all the staff that I work with, have done an amazing job on a rota. I haven't been going in at all, as I'm on the shielding list, but I've been working from home every single day, doing as much as I can and everything I can remotely to support. And I can't wait to go back and be part of be back at school, and to be supporting my school going forward with what is going to be it's going to be hard for every single school that is going to be doing these. That is going to be getting children back, whether it is the 1st of June or whether it's not the 1st of June. It's not going to be an easy transition. So I can't wait to be there to do my bit in person and not just virtually.
I'm sure.
But I think the thing that I've read so much. I kept up with so much of the new stuff that's going on, and I just think, you read, it's hard because you read an article and then you read another article, they contradict each other, and you just, when Boris Johnson made his speech about this potential opening of schools, I do think that the guidelines to schools needed to be very clear and given very quickly, and I think that it's important that it's done at the right time. I'm sure I mirror every single teacher in this country who would say that the only thing we want, and that the thing we desperately all want, is to get these children back into school, and have their learning face to face with their teacher, and be back in that environment and not in the virtual teaching world. But it has to be. It has to be when it's safe to do so, and when the science proves that it is safe to do so, and it needs to be very clear of how the government expect that to happen. And
I mean, they have thought about the groups they're sending back. They have, because they've deliberately sent back reception and year 1, because their contact out of school is very limited, so they have fewer friends that they go and visit, and they're sending back year 6 because that's such an important transition year. Do you not think they followed the science?
I think they obviously, to be able to say that it's okay to do that it's a possible thing to do on the 1st of June. There will be the science that backs that up, and also I think it was today that they were going to publish the evidence of that science. But I also understand from the union perspective that they want more information, and they want more information from the government to be sure that it is the right time to get these children back into school. And so I understand, but I understand both sides, and then from a personal perspective, I desperately want to see children back in school and in the classroom, but I think I'd be like every other teacher that just worries about their safety and wanting them to be back at the right time. And if it proves that the 1st of June onwards is the right time, then brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So I understand why the unions want to see more information, and they want to see more.
That's their job.
And they want more evidence to back it up, and I think that's okay that they've asked for it, and I don't know if that, I'm not sure if that is what was coming out today, but you know, the more evidence that can be provided, the safer, the more confident parents will feel, the more confident teachers will feel, and the more confident pupils will feel, because the pupils are feeling this too. They are feeling you know, I'm sure children just generally feel the worry about what's going on and how it's being dealt with, and so the more evidence that we can give is reassuring for all parties, and I think okay.
I think the teachers need to be safe as well, because the children in those age groups, there is very minimal infinitesimal, not even countable risk to the children, but I think the teachers need to be safe.
I mean, just to highlight on some of the information that was released today, it says that there's a very, very small chance, but it's not zero. I mean, from the other side of things is when is it going to be classed as being safe? Because I don't think they've given the 5 kind of like stages of what we believe this is a criteria. But unfortunately, where we are at this moment in time is the virus is something that we will be living with for a period of time, and that's
Forever.
a difficulty. I mean, Laura, from your perspective, if I could ask you, I mean, do you think you've had a clarity of information coming to you to say it's safe, or is it been several sources?
So my school is like every school at the moment is producing their plans and protocols for how we are going to manage that phased return in line with what is being published, and but it's a tricky one, because it comes with a lot of anxiety for all schools about how they're going to about how it will work, and how what's going to happen next once we phase those children back in. Who's next? How is that going to work? And once we're at full capacity, what's that going to look like? So I think you know, teachers are not just worrying about what it's going to look like on the 1st of June, but they want more information about, okay, what's coming next, what's after that, what is what's the next conditional thing that might happen after that.
Can you paint a picture about what it's going to look like on the 1st of June now, on what's going to be different? Have you got anything from that you can enlighten our viewers with?
Well, I think the government have mentioned about obviously the bubbles and the children being in small bubbles going forward, and taking lots of precautions in terms of the children, having, you know, their own equipment, and having their using disposable cups, and staying in their bubble, and staying with their certain teachers. So all these sorts of things are going to hopefully make that transition, if it happens for those children on the 1st of June, easier, and you know, make them feel safer at school, make their parents feel safe that they are at school. But I do think that more needs to happen in terms of what's next. So once we phase those children in, how is it going to work as we start to build up capacity? Because for some schools it's going to be very difficult. Some schools that are 2-form entry or 3-form entry, and potentially a space will be an issue. So I heard a really interesting thing on, I think it was on Question Time last night, where, you know, somebody brought up the issue of schools having space issues, and then how and then how public spaces such as theatres and and the galleries and museums are all empty at the minute. So is there, and I thought it was really interesting, where I think it come from an idea that another person on Question Time was talking about that happened in Denmark. But is there a thing that can we use these big cultural spaces to get children back into education, if space is going to end up being an issue, depending on how long these children need to be spaced out in a school? So I thought that was a really interesting idea. How we can essentially is the way forward at one point to be having more lessons outside of the classroom, because there will be a space issue for some schools. If it continues into September, that we need the social distancing in schools, that inevitably some schools are going to struggle with space.
Yeah.
Laura, could I ask how do you social distance children of a young age? Because I can't do it with my little one. How are you going to do it?
I don't think you can. I've worked with children from nursery and reception upwards, teaching French, and it's a very difficult thing. It's a very difficult thing to teach them, because reception and early years is a place where the children are always sharing, they're always playing, they're always interacting with each other, and socially distancing young children like that goes against what is against what early years is about, and a very difficult thing for young children to understand. But I guess that has been thought about in the fact that they're saying that the transmission between them is less, because it's going to be a very challenging thing to do. I can see it being much easier for year 6 children, for year 5 children, even for year 4, to know that we have to keep our distance at the moment from each other and stick with our bubble of children and teachers. The bubble that you're in with the 2 or 3 teachers that you're with is the bubble that you have to stay in, and that's our bubble for the moment.
Well, that's the thing, is it? You don't need to keep the individuals socially distanced. You just need to keep the bubbles socially distanced. And if the bubbles work, if you're able to keep those bubbles separate, because as soon as somebody in the bubble is poorly, then the whole bubble goes off and isolates for 2 weeks. And if it were year 5, that bubble would be harder to contain, because they would be more likely to go and see other friends outside of school, which is why they've started with reception in year 1.
Yeah, I do see that, but I just think that the social distancing of those bubbles is going to be easier for those children who are slightly older. And I know that more guidance is due, I think, to come out about early years and how that is anticipated to work, because I think that is going to be a really big challenge. Children, young children who fall over and graze their knee, young children who fall over in the playground and need help to get back up again, young children who
have you been given guidance about first aid and administering it, or if you need to help children?
It's a tricky one, but the general idea of things that I've seen and is that full PPE will be available for teachers, available for teachers, but also I think lots of schools will have to then be in contact with parents and making sure that parents can come in and collect children if need be. So it's very hard to envisage what a school is going to look like once this is all up and running. But first and foremost is the children's safety, and I do believe that the unions are within their rights to ask for more information, to ask for more evidence, to make sure that we're not sending children back before is safe to do so, and that's what I do think that that's right to ask for. because it's going to be a very hard adjustment for all children to see school in a very different light, and it's going to be a hard adjustment for teachers to tweak how you're teaching in a classroom, and how you're reaching the children in a very different way, because at the moment we were in a place where we have to live with this virus and keep it and keep it contained and keep the levels down, and I think
the reality is we're going to be living with it forever, unless it's like smallpox, which is the only virus that we've eliminated from the planet as far as I'm aware. It's here to stay. We need to find a way of living alongside it, don't we?
Yeah,
and educating the children about it and about how to deal with it is going to be a very big part of that. And but I think that getting them back into schools and starting that just has to be at the right time and in the right way. So I'd be very interested to see what guidance is now going to come out for early years specifically about managing that, and getting over the hurdle of those children not understanding why they can't be near certain children, or why they can't share their toys and things like that, because that's a very hard thing for 4 and 5 children, or 4 years old and 5 years old children to understand.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I heard the interview that Stephen Chalk from Oasis Academy, and about how phasing schools and opening up, they're the first in line to open them up. And one of the cases he did make, and actually, I do agree with him, is like he's in a demographic of, 45% of the children are underprivileged, and they're on kind of like tower blocks, 14th floor. They don't get the exercise. School is such a big kind of interaction and part of the children's lives. So he was kind of saying that the benefits actually of them being back in school outweighs the benefits of the virus itself. And in the sense of the mental health and well-being of the children. And it was just an interesting spin to hear that, because we hear a lot of one side of the story. Actually, he's come out and said it in a different way. I don't think he had too much flack about it, but I think he does raise a perfectly valid kind of a discussion point on that side. But
schools are really important for safety as well, Andrew, particularly primary schools. From a safeguarding perspective, they are a chance to see a child, and teachers are often the person or the people or teaching assistants, educators in school who spot a child at risk. If schools don't go back until September, no one will have seen those children for nearly 6 months.
Yeah, that's actually.
And if it is the case that the due date is delayed and it doesn't go ahead, because things like the test, track and trace thing is not in place, or they haven't fulfilled the different elements that they need to have done before they can open schools, then I think it's going to be even more important that the government puts a lot of effort. I know they have the Oak Academy website up, but the government will have to, I think, need to do more to ensure that distance learning can work for all schools of all variety, and in the best way possible, and making sure that things like, I think it will be even more important that the weekly calls that my school are doing, and I know that lots of other schools are doing, will have to continue, and other ways.
There's lots that aren't. You are very good. Your academy chain is leading. It's doing really well. Your engagement with the parents is excellent.
I think it's very important that if these children don't go back in June, and even if it's delayed by 2 or 3 weeks, or even if we don't find ourselves back until September, that weekly communication needs to go on, and I actually think it would probably need to go on throughout the summer holiday, because it helps parents to hear from the teacher. It helps to allow them to ask questions. But even for the child to be able to hear their teacher's voice, to talk to their teacher, is a really key part of keeping up morale, keeping up spirits, and pushing forward in a climate that nobody has ever been in, or or experience. And then at that, there's other ways of reaching the children. You know, I said about the certificates that we're starting to do, and you know, we're thinking of other ways of reaching our children, such as possible like a sing-song thing on Zoom that children can join. And so there's lots of things that can be done. And if this goes forward, absolutely it's correct that, you know, the teacher engagement is going to have to increase, to make sure that we are really in touch with our kids up until the point where we get them back in September. And like I say, there's lots of ways of doing that, and it's going to be even more important if the 1st of June, and then, like they said, they were hoping that all primary school children could get a month in school. If we can't get that to happen, then we've got to do other things, and I think the government needs to put some more into looking at, you know, how else can we get distance learning really, really up and running? What else can we do? How else can we reach out to schools? What else can we give them? What other sort of things can we inject money in to make sure it's going to work really, really well for these children, and they can almost feel like their virtual classroom is like being at school. You know,
you can't see the student, can you? Because I don't know a state school that's been able to do a conference like this because of safeguarding. So how do you get over that hurdle of, because you can never really know if a child is safe. And one thing is for sure, as more people are made unemployed, as more people are locked down for longer, then more children are going to be at risk. How do you ensure the safety of that child living at home if you don't get to see that child?
Well, so that's why I think it's important that schools are in weekly contact with their parents, and it allows that would then allow parents to know that you know, school is always there. They can always contact school if they have a problem, if they need something, and I think that's why those conversations are so vital. And you know, my parents know that I call weekly, and I you know, I've reassured my parents that if they need me before the next call, that I'm just literally behind Google Classroom. They can leave me a message and I will call back and I will call back and help in any way I can. So it's that parental engagement that is important when you're just at school in the classroom on a day-to-day basis. That is even more important now for the pupils and for the parents alike, to make sure that they you know, they feel like even though they're not in the school building, school is still running. And there's, you know, I'm one of, I don't know how many teachers that are sitting behind these computers and are making sure that work is up there for the children. We're trying to make it as exciting as possible, giving them also some freedom in choice. So we've run our Google Classroom where the children have worked through at their pace. There is no deadline. They work through at their pace. And they pick a bit of the maths, reading and writing to do each day. And then they can choose from the wider curriculum. So they can choose, one week they might decide, I'm going to spend the week focusing on a science experiment, and I've had some amazing science work back from them. Or the next week they might think, I'm going to do some DT, or I'm going to do some history. And we've managed to continue working on the areas of the curriculum that we need to be doing through Google Classroom, plus some extra things, you know, some fun writing competitions. I'm trying to get my children involved in the Hold Still photography competition that is run by Kate, the Duchess of Cambridge. Kate Middleton is done with the National Gallery. So that's something different. So we're trying to get them to do their daily maths, reading, writing, and then we're giving them the choice to choose. And I've had some videos uploaded to Google Classroom of bouncing eggs in an experiment, or you know, we've had a bit of a music. We did a French music thing where they were rapping French numbers, and so we tried to make that.
Have anything funny uploaded onto your Google Classroom that might not have been in social distancing? Has there been anything that you had?
No, nothing. They very much, you know. Even I've even had children who will upload, if I put up a maths task where it is follow the PowerPoint through, and you know, make notes on any bits that you don't know. I've had children who have made their notes and sent me pictures of their notes on Google Classroom just so I can see that they've made their notes, which is brilliant. Like. It's and I think the independence that the Google Classroom is giving our children is going to be seen when we get them back in the classroom. We're going to see it. They are learning so much.
You seem to like it a lot. Do you, in your opinion, it's not policy, it's not the opinion of your school, would you rather see remote learning happen until there was a vaccine?
No, I don't think we can wait. You know, we don't know when that vaccine will happen. We don't. Please God, it is in. Please God, they find it tomorrow. Like it's as soon as possible. But we don't know when. And the reality is that we have to learn to live with what are the changes that are going on at the moment, and we will all adjust. The children will adjust, the teachers will adjust, but I don't think. I just want it to be at the right time, and I don't, you know, for the children, for the parents, for the teachers, for all the staff that makes a school run, just needs to be at the correct time. It needs to be
when is that?
I'm not sure. I think that's very hard to answer. I think it's hard to answer when the correct time is, and I think it has to be, you know, this being a hypothetical plan from the government. They have the science behind it, and like I said, I don't think it's unreasonable that unions have asked for more information, more tests to be done, and hopefully those tests will prove that, you know, we can get going and get some children back into school very, very slowly. And I think it's baby steps, because we don't want to go too far too quickly to then have to pull back again, because that's more detrimental to children. So it's as these kids are starting to settle into a homeschooling routine, and it's you know, I can't wait for the day that we get them back into school and they can have, you know, an assembly again. But couple of weeks before lockdown, it almost felt like, you know, the school was having to close things down anyway because we weren't in assemblies. We didn't have assemblies anymore. We had to have, you know, regular hand washing, keeping them apart, separating them at lunchtime and things like that. So already we almost had a little bit of a taste of what is going to come in a bigger, but what's obviously going to come, measures that are going to come now, going to be on a bigger scale. So, but I wouldn't want these kids to go back and then us, you know, to have to be taken out of it again. It just
to
needs
be
to
locked down again would be absolutely diabolical. I just
Yeah.
sometimes see pictures of people at beaches and go, well, if you can go to the beach.
Yeah, it is an interesting one on that one. I mean, we've got a there are some real positives that are happening at the moment with the antibody tests that they're looking to bring in, and hopefully key workers, teachers, NHS staff will be the first people that we take that to see if that immunity exists. I was reading another report yesterday that we had 1 in 6 people there regarding London may have had it already, which is possible. I've spoken to a couple of people actually who have gone through the mills with it on that side. It's tough, it's challenging. I think schools have had to react in such a quick way and building lots of things so quickly that
they've
Laura,
done
honestly,
amazingly.
you can't take yeah, absolutely, in a short space. So I think anyone that ever criticizes, I guess, what's happening at the moment, I really think they should get their head screwed on and put things the right way.
We weren't given, you know, I think, if I've remembered rightly, Boris Johnson gave the announcement of schools formally closing on like a Tuesday, and said that they were to close their doors on a Friday to anybody other than key worker and vulnerable children. So that didn't give, you know, we were making plans in the background, schools were anticipating it, but it didn't give us long to formally prepare the children for for what's happening. So children across the country were just had a small amount of time before they knew that, you know, things were going to change in a very different way. And I wouldn't want that to happen again, which is why when you see pictures of people like you did on the beach, like Chris mentioned at Bournemouth and I think Southend, I don't remember, but that breaks my heart, because you just think, let's just keep following the rules properly, to hopefully then get children back into school, because there is no reason why beaches should be like that. If everybody is following the rules, they shouldn't. The beach shouldn't be that busy. Is it?
I'd rather have children in school and have those contacts than I would go to the beach personally.
And that's the thing, that people need to be following the rules as they are, and you know, I know that the government changed the message to stay alert, but I think at the heart of it is still stay at home as much as possible, because that way we can you know, hopefully start getting kids back in a way that is safe to do so. But if we have things like beaches like that, and people, you know, being not following the rules that way, you know, we don't know what would happen to the R rate, and that's then going to impact how quickly we can act for getting these kids back into a school environment, and allowing them to start, you know, it's even going to have a knock-on effect for, you know, higher education, things like that. So that's why I think we all have a part to play in making sure.
I think
that
most universities have come out and said that they are doing everything online. Cambridge certainly, if all of next year is all online. So
I mean,
that is.
Yeah, but that's an extreme as well. But also, when you think about, I guess, the aspect of someone that is older, they will have more contacts and more kind of like interactions with people than children will on that side. So maybe they've judged it on that side. But you know, we're kind of like we're looking at the science. Well, I'm not. The government's looking at science, and we're trusting that they're making the right decision as well. And I think a lot of it, come the 28th of May, is when they're going to give the confirmation, because I still understand from my knowledge that schools are still waiting until the 28th of May at the earliest to confirm that.
We are schools are preparing for it to be the case that the 1st of June goes ahead, but that has not been completely confirmed. And as I said, the government has been asked to satisfy other criteria to prove that it is something that could go ahead safely, and from the 1st of June, if in and around the 1st of June. But I do think for it to go ahead safely, it does rely on other people to also be following the general rules. If we want to get these children back into school safely, the general rules also need to be followed. And you know, because it's going to be a huge operation, having staggering entry times, staggering leaving times, making sure that the teachers in a bubble are the only teachers that are around the children in that bubble, and you know, making sure that they're out on the playground correctly. It's a huge operation, and it doesn't just rely, like I say, it relies on the general public doing the right thing as well, and getting you know, and giving also teachers and schools the time to do it. It's not an easy operation to get equipment for each child. Like it's not going to be an easy thing to do. So I think that the conversation between unions and government needs to continue, and I think the concerns and worries that teachers and schools have needs to also be listened to, and needs to be and because they are the ones who know the children, they know how a school works, they know how you know, what's going to work better for them, how it's going to work, and that's also very important.
Okay, I think that sums it up really well. Laura, I would just like to say I am amazingly proud, haven't said why you're on this podcast, that you're my sister-in-law, and I'm amazingly proud of everything that you do, particularly with the way that you've dealt with lockdown, because you are on the list of people that has to stay in, and you're not allowed to go out for walks, and that's been difficult. But also the amount that you've put into your school and your students, and the amount of passion you show. And you're not the only teacher, I know that, who has shown that, because generally as a breed, teachers are wonderful human beings. And thank you very much for joining us.
Oh no, thank you
you
for
very
having
much.
me. I think that we have had a mixed review of what people are saying about how the reaction of teachers to this, but I think we just have to remember that teachers are reacting to it because at the heart of it they are just concerned for the children and for their well-being and for their safety and for their welfare, and want the best for those children. And it's okay that teachers have come out to say that no, they don't think it's the right time, or they're worried about it not being the right time, or is the 1st of June a bit too quick, and they're allowed to say it, and
I think we should listen to them. They're the ones who know, aren't they?
Yeah.
They know,
We need to. I think that's important.
They know the routine. They know what what makes a school work, and inevitably there are going to be changes in September, and even going forward into September, but schools need the time and the support to be able to do that correctly, and I think they just need to be listened to, because at the heart of it, that's all. If I could have those children back in school tomorrow, in a safe environment, oh my gosh, I would in an absolute heartbeat. I miss my class terribly, and it's and to have had it cut at this point in the year when you're starting, you see children developing and you're getting to the heart of the curriculum that you're working on, is heartbreaking for teachers. But we will, when we go back and when we are back in there, we will do our job, and we will do it to the exactly how we need to be, and hopefully and make it as normal an environment for these children as possible, so they can continue to thrive. But I think the government needs to answer the new questions that have been posed to them, because those are at the heart of that is just a team of people, is behind hundreds and thousands of people are behind those questions, who are just worrying for the children and making it okay for the children to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're 100% right. Join us next time when Aidan will be back, so you'll have a more respectful chair, able to manage things in a more sensible way. And if you would like to join us on our podcast to tell us how you're coping in the lockdown, or have got some valuable insights to us, please let us know. Like and share this in your feed. Thanks a lot. Have a great day. Bye-bye.